Hey, all, we're back. Apologies for that. Instagram has like a 1 hour time limit, and so we got booted off, but we'll get it going back up again. Hey, hey, hey. What am I looking for here? Yes. Okay, sorry, we are back. There we go, accept. Yay!
Right. I,
I can talk to you all day, but apparently Instagram's like 1 hour is more than enough.
what can I say? 'Cause what can I say? It's like talking to yourself, right?
Exactly. Okay, so get us going. We're talking about envisioning and the limitations of the people from being able to really, one, come together the way that we were supposed to with all of the different states, but also the limit of what we are willing to envision and if we can go outside of what colonialism basically gives us as options.
It's a leap of faith, and
Mhm.
and it's a very dangerous one at that. Because right now here's the weird part. Here's the really weird part. UAE is new colonialism. So RSF winning is an absolute no. SAF has been historically the bad guys. Um, so you would think absolutely no, no. You would think no. Um,
Look,
but
why won't it work for me? You got the
I'm gonna give
cipher.
you. I don't know. I don't
Okay,
know.
go on.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. I think there's a setting somewhere actually.
Hmm.
And then um, SAF. Here's what they do, man. They give you false promises. So within SAF, there's okay, so that's the military, but the military SAF outsources its fighting capabilities to militias. This is how the RSF was created in the first place. Um,
AKA the
the
ginger weed for anyone who doesn't know.
now you know. The problem here is that though SAF is branding this as a war of dignity for the sake of the motherland and everything, um, those who are fighting within SAF, the different militias or the different interests within SAF, should have a say if SAF wins on the reconstruction and the reformation of SAF. Um, so that means within SAF there's different nuances, there's different groups, different factions, and so what people are doing is that they're betting on one of the factions would hopefully be able to take down or win this war. So when I say win this war, there's two wars. There's war number one between SAF and the RSF. When that war is over, there will be a second war for the soul. If SAF beats RSF, there will be a second war for the soul of SAF between the people within it themselves, the Kaysan, the Islamists, and the Ghadibun, the ones who are more in humanitarian kind of. There's so many different interests within SAF itself. It's under a big umbrella.
Oh, he got booted out. No. Okay, let's see if we can get him back on. I was taking so many notes. Y'all taking notes? I hope you are, 'cause it's a lot of content. There we go. You're back.
Yeah, I swiped by accident. I don't know what does that. Um, So there's different factions within SAF. What is the possibility that number one, and here's the real kicker. Here's the real kicker. What is the possibility that number one, um, the faction within SAF you want to win will win, and number two, What is the possibility? And here's our parents' generation mistake. Essentially, if you want to make the change, you cannot be sitting on the back seat. Our parents sat in the back seat and said, "Let others do the job." Others have done the job, but they didn't do it right. They
No,
didn't do the job for the people. Now this is why we're at the place where we're at. You know, if you want to take control and command of your own kind of destiny in the future, you have to have a hand within it. You have to be.
absolutely.
You cannot be sitting on the far of at the outside of it, and then literally watch your generation and watch your peers go past you in life, and you're not holding them to account. This is why it's very important to hold peers to account of people. If I'm
Hmm.
more than able to be held into account for anything I do, because
Yeah.
I know if I'm not held into account now, then when later comes down the line, I'm one of those people who personally my belief is, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be sitting on the back seat. The
No,
way I see it,
100% no.
I'm going to be taking a very active hand in the future, and I have to be held accountable from early and show people that I can be held accountable, so that when that time comes, you know, you will make that change or difference.
100%.
But then we come into the question of, okay, the institution in itself, the nation state is oppressive, the institutions within the nation state is oppressive. Do you have, can you, can you genuinely believe that if you go within the institution, you can make it repressive of,
I'm not a reformer.
see what,
I'm not like, so for me, it's like burn it all down. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. We've tried for this long. Like, how many more attempts and how many more wars do we need to have before everyone just recognizes that it is by design supposed to be this evil?
but
Like,
literally, it's true. And that's the tough part, that in terms of the pill that a lot of people are finding hard to swallow, is that would buying into the reforming actually pull off, or
yeah.
would it not, right? And is buying into the idea of reformation, the idea of to kind of help us protect what we know that is our identity. Oh, we can't fully change. Like for me, I would have a problem. Ask yourself this question. If you're a Sudani person, ask yourself this question. Would you have a problem if they changed the name of Sudan? Like
Me?
you or anybody? Yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, no, you can't count me because I'm crazy. Like, I'm just like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, yeah, that's meaningless without safety, wellness, and stability for my people. And also, I'm a hippie, so for me, everyone's my people. And at the same time, what I want is all about indigenizing. And in indigenizing, there's no nation state, there's no quote unquote Sudan, there's no US, there's no this. You have different communities working in harmony with one another, um, each with a say and sovereignty over the land that they're right directly on and under. So I'm a terrible example to ask that question
No, 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 no.
to.
Next question then. If we're going into resource scarcity, we've already been in resource scarcity, and there's guns all over the place. I wish I could say abolish all guns, but abolish is just a legal term. You can't make them proof. Um, and you know where I'm gonna say next. Like, okay, then band of raiders and stuff like that, or whatnot, then obviously you're going to get a few people who are going to come in and be like, we're going to be your protectors. You should let us protect you. We hold the gun now. You don't know what's dangerous out there. You don't know this, that, and the other. It could be this, or whatnot. Then it comes into a like, wait a minute, you know, and it's tough pills. It's tough pills. I find.
It sounds like when you pay the mob to make sure your business doesn't get attacked by them.
Right. Exactly. It's extortion. It's extortion. It's literally extortion. Um, but then it goes into power dynamics and power relations, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I always say I curse whoever's made the first gun. Like that shit is just it was overpowered, bro. That shit is just too um like to take away a life within in a second. Um, but for me, it's on my side. I find myself within the reforming field, even though
Mm.
I have a minority about it. So much so, I hope the revolutionizing comes before I'm given a chance to reform, because
Mm.
I don't want to get to that point. I don't want to get to the point where I'm looking as I am now, and like I hope the revolution work gets there before a person like me comes to reform,
Mm.
because I don't know how long we'll last, to be
Mm.
honest. And we really want
Don't
to.
worry, I'll radicalize you. Don't worry. We'll get
Yeah.
you there real quick. Yeah, we'll get you there real quick.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. Um, I can't say it on here, but one of the things, well, knowing actually no, knowing me, and the way I've been, I can hear cats.
I
Yeah,
I
so
can hear them too.
really shit. Like for me, so I'm from South Wales in Cardiff.
Mm.
Believe it or not, South Wales, Wales is where the world's best special forces and elites are trained. Brecon and
Mm.
the high mountains and villages. Because being raised in such an environment, it's allowed me to see things in a much more military kind of way and sensing. Thus, the military industrial complex within the UK has heavily influenced on me in terms of my mindset, in my way of thinking. I've done trainings before, like, and that's within school. So the rest of like the UK would have a different kind of education. My education was more on warfare, physical kind of
Mm.
adventuring, mapping or whatever, camping and stuff like this, out in the wilds and such. Um, it's because of that kind of upbringing that I've managed to see what I can differentiate between different militias and militaries. So when I look,
Ooh.
I've seen the military in the UK. I've seen the militaries around the world. When I see the military in Sudan, that is absolutely not a military. That is a band of thugs who pretend to wear uniforms and actually go out, you know. That's why for example, on my end, I take heavily, massive pride when it comes to professionalism, especially when it comes to armed forces and stuff like there's fucking rules. You have to be pew 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 exactly like an ADHD crazy person, like OCD. If you do not follow these, yo, fuck off. This is people's lives you're playing with. Now, when looking at something as such as the Sudanese army, um, it's 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 all armies are bad, but when I see this one, it is genuinely not only bad, um, but to the point where it's savage and brutal.
Mm.
Militaries and the different militaries around the world, they make their militaries, when I say professional, it means you don't fucking shoot a bullet into the air, because that will go up just the same way it will come down and it will hit a civilian
Mm.
instantly. When you see when you look at RSF and SAF videos, you see the biggest dangerous, most dangerous, like in the real world, there has to be um there has to be weapons handling. When you're seeing people shooting guns into the air brrr, like that, those bullets have to come down somewhere, and it's going to hit civilians somewhere. I'm a pessimist at this point. Like it has to hit a civilian. Like it's going to, okay, it's going to cause more damage. You may think you're the big man in front of the camera now, but you're going to kill the very same people that you think you're protecting by doing these things, right?
Yep.
And so when I say professionalism, I mean like these kind of weapons handling. They don't do stupid shit. We throughout this war we have seen the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. Israel, the way Israel does it every single time, clear as light as fucking day. That is the worst as well.
Yeah.
Israel is professionally trained to kill.
Oh,
Professionally
yes.
trained to kill.
Oh, yes.
The
Oh,
ones in
yes.
Sudan and RSF are
The
trained,
amateur version.
are amateurs who are trained to, who are professionally trained, not professionally trained. I want to say they kill so much they're professionals. The
Mm,
amateurs who kill,
mm,
they're professionals. Like, like a
mm,
genocide.
mm.
A genocide. That means you must either A, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, or B, you know exactly what the fuck you're doing, right? And I think it actually applies for both. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say here is that through my experiences, seeing what I've seen around the world and seeing how things are handled, there is no way militarily, um, yeah, and they don't feel any remorse. They're drugged up, and
Yeah.
not to give them
Yeah.
just pulling a trigger, you don't feel no emotions. It's metal, it's metallic. You don't feel anything. The way that it's in Sudan, it is literally made on purpose that the Sudanese army and the militias not only are trained to kill, but they're trained to extract. They're trained to sabotage. They're trained to plunder and not raise anything for the people. And because of that, that's why we've seen violence within the communities as much as we've seen it.
Hmm.
You know, I don't. So that's why I'm a bit of a on the reformer side of being like, okay, um, do is if I were to see a person shoot a gun up in the air like like that, would I want to? I want to get rid of it. I really do, but I can't. So the best thing I can do is to make sure that they don't fucking point it upwards or don't point it at a person, but fucking point it down. I wish I can
So
melt them.
wait, so here's where I'm going to challenge
Mm.
you. Why can't you?
Why can't I what?
Why is the option to not dismantle and
Mm.
instead reform?
Because that's just one. Says that's within the boundaries of the former states or whatever. We got 9 countries surrounding us. There'll be
Hmm.
more than They'll be more than, and they'll be like, "Oh, bet you've dropped it. Oh, all right. That doesn't mean we follow you. Just because you do it doesn't mean we do it. And then you go back into
I see
horrible.
what you're saying right now. See, I see what you're saying right now. So
But
here's the thing. So for me, you're not actually a reformer. You're just trying to be cautious. And what you're really saying is, because in your ideal world,
mm,
if everyone and every neighbor were to put their guns down, would that be your ideal, or would your
oh,
ideal be that everyone just reforms?
no, it would be everybody put their guns down, right? But
Okay,
you
there you
but
go. So,
can you
but
trust?
yeah, I hear you, but you're not a reformer. I'm
Even
just telling you right
better,
now.
even better,
You're just being cautious with the lived reality. That's
bro.
all it is.
Fair enough. Thank you. And the reason why I'm saying that is because
You're radical.
look at him. It's just that you've seen it in in the real sense of like, holy shit, anything could. You can control yourself. Fantastic. As a human being, we're not supposed to control other people, because when you
Mhm.
control others, that's literally the military mindset, right? You have to
Mhm.
be able to trust the other person to come to that conclusion of putting the gun down. Okay, fantastic. Can you can you make that trust all the time? Like, you have to be Jesus. I'm not gonna
Mm.
have to have a pretty big heart and be able to be like, put it down. Resource scarcity is, guys, we don't need to fight it out. But here's the good part. I think there is a way to make a sustainable kind of model where everybody eats and everybody benefits without the need for it to get there to that point of being like, I need to pick up my gun just in case a person comes in, invades, and steals my stuff. There is a way for everybody to essentially eat and be sustainable, and being sustainable with the land itself without breaking the back or breaking the bank. And it becomes circular once again, symbiosis and everything.
Mhm.
But that requires a lot of trust, and unfortunately, as history has shown us, all humanity needs is just a few bad faith actors, just a few spoilers, and they ruin everything for the people and such. And then it becomes trust issues again. Can you really trust that? Can you believe this or whatnot? Um, so yeah, I'm just being really cautious. And yeah, with what we have in Sudan, why wouldn't you be cautious?
Yeah.
As with water scarcity. Dude, UAE has a massive water problem. Did you know that these guys tried to tow an iceberg from the Antarctic to the UAE to try and solve their clean water issue, their water crisis? They couldn't, right? It was too much money. They tried to move a whole iceberg. Search it up. Go on Google right now. Go
Oh,
on. Search it up.
I'm
They
gonna search it
tried to do
up.
this. Well, they couldn't. So what did they do? You got the River Nile over there in East Africa. You got these ports that they're trying to do all across Africa and such. The land grabs. Have you seen the one about Tanzania? Have you seen what the UAE is trying to do
Yeah,
there?
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Yanni, that's just one example, Grace. Um, Yes, you remember that? Yeah, they did think of that. Yeah, see, they like, yeah, they thought it was a good idea, but it vanished. Why did it vanish? Why did it vanish? Because they're going
Yeah.
for water scarcity within the Nile. The water resource wars between Ethiopia and Egypt.
Yeah.
Freaking UAE has a hand in it. All
Yeah.
right, there's a lot of things that once again, climate resource. They bought an Egyptian port. The way that climate is fueling a lot of these things, and not to take it too much. Actually, we've taken it too much already, haven't we? Let's go further. Um, yeah, I mean, the way that SAF and the RSF, they're going to continue fighting. The people have had
Yeah.
enough. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But now, me as an analyst, I've been warning for the longest times. I'm one of the journalists for one of I'm not going to say the names, but one of the biggest Sudanese news outlets where people get their information from. I'm the one who writes it in English.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
at this when I'm writing in these essays, when I'm writing in these news articles, I'm saying that the dams would bust. I'm saying that literally the maintenance that is needed to look to make sure natural disasters don't occur um, is needed. And we people have been, I say we, it's me and my multiple personalities, we have been fucking warning about this. People have been
Yeah.
warning for you have been warning about this. We all have Sudanese voices have been warning about not just the dangers of human to human conflict, but what would
Mm.
happen when nature gets involved as well. Tasty,
Mm.
do you remember like at the start of this year on how the birds from Europe during the times of winter did not go back because they were
Yeah.
too busy eating and feasting on the flesh of those that died in Omdurman?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? To what scale do you need of
Yeah.
savagery and horror do you
Oh,
need
to
to
create
describe?
something like that.
To,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally, it's
Yeah.
too like
They
what?
were good. Like the birds were good. They're like, you guys
Yeah,
gave us everything
literally.
we need.
When did they come
And
back?
this is, and this speaks to just like even another thing where even when we're looking at some of the numbers, like right now, the infrastructure is not even there for us to actually have accurate numbers. And once the dust settles,
Mm,
there's no way that something could be that disruptive to a natural rhythm for an animal that would not have to be on a massive scale. And when we talk about how big Sudan is, that means it has to be everywhere, everywhere.
literally, and look what real with Junior said. Literally, the same thing happened with the dogs. The
Mm,
dogs. This is a story. What we just read about these dogs, this is something that the ancient Greeks used to write, and before that, and they would used to write on how dogs would eat on the flesh of
yep.
those that were killed, and then those that who were remained would find nothing to eat except for the dogs
Dogs
that ate
themselves.
flesh of the
Yeah.
human themselves. So it becomes a cycle, a fucking sick cycle. Um,
Yeah.
and so as I said earlier in this in of the live, is this not some kind of biblical proportions kind of apocalypse, that when,
Yeah.
if you if you were to open the Bible and and if you
Yeah.
look on what's happening it's literally it's the same scenario. um, then again, I have the real belief that Pharaoh was Sudani, he was from Kush. Moses is Sudani, he was from Kush. It's only explains. Yep, yep, yep. The good people, the bad, the worst of the worst, Um, but yeah, yeah. There's. I'm sure there's a lot more in my head that right now I can't get out. But like, that's just the climate aspect.
Yeah.
That and such. Will we see peace? We have to have a peace negotiations. Before I was against it, but we have to cut our losses short. Um, Otherwise, we risk of um, some going into something that we can. It's already we've already can't come back. We already can't come back.
Oh,
Mm,
yeah. Oh, and the thing is, even if everything were to stop today,
mm,
and like all the guns go away today and Sudan gets pumped with all of this aid, there's so much irreversible that even if someone was to get like the best care today, we would still have lives being lost
mm.
because they're at that point where literally they the the intervention for some people and the intervention on some of the things that have been happening, we've gone past the
But
point of that.
she,
We've gone
she,
past the point of that. And then when it comes to like those peace talks and negotiations, like for me, I can't envision that happening without the actual people who need to be held accountable being in that process because RSF, SAF, they're going to keep going because of what's going on behind the scenes as well too. And if the actors behind the scenes aren't held to account to stop, that peace talk is just not going to happen. Like that negotiation just won't happen.
and to add on further to your point as well, um, these generals are fighting because they know whoever the loser is going to be, they're the ones who are going to be slapped with those charges of crimes against humanity,
Yeah.
genocide crimes, and all of these. So they're trying to winterpret for their own immunity of
Yeah.
being like, do even though even though this is gonna sound crazy, this is a Kazan civil war. This
Yeah.
is a Kazan civil, like this Kazan this way and this Kazan that way, and
Yeah.
this is a war between themselves, and they've brought everybody into it, and it's
Right.
evolved from a
Yep.
civil war into a proxy war, and then even from then, it was also a counter-revolutionary war, but now it's even evolved into some kind of climate catastrophe that's unpredictable. Um, Either way, either way. What I'm trying to say is, um, both do not both one claims legitimacy due to its age, but that legitimacy is 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 really being tested, like seriously being tested. The other one, the RSF, gained its legitimacy from SAF in the first place. Um, there's a lot of things we have to maybe decolonize and change. We have to maybe like accept. Did you know Khartoum? Khartoum was founded by the British. Khartoum was a British military base that grew and expanded in size because of the market. And then from the market, because it grew because of capitalist interests, it then became a town and a village, and then more and more and more and more until it's become what it's become. So if Khartoum is destroyed, does that mean it's really sad, or did we just really lose, I don't know, 150-year-old, British
Yeah.
base that's been there for too long, as where it shouldn't have been, or something. There's a lot of questions I don't have the answers to, certainly not. But as we go through this journey, I think we've all realized it doesn't matter about that we've had enough of the politics. There's millions of
Yeah.
people dying.
Yeah.
It's,
We're done.
it's too much. We're done. Like, Yani, I don't know how much gray matter you've managed to attain in your brain since seeing all of this. I know you've done gymnastics and mental hurdles every single day just to try and process what the fuck is going on.
What is going on? Yeah.
But, right? And that you try to look into your friend's eyes and try to explain it, and you're just like,
Honestly, at this, like when someone asks me to sit down and like I have to be so mentally prepared.
right,
So
right.
like I just can't like jump in and be like, oh, okay, yeah, like, ask me a question. I literally have to like be in the mindset
Yeah,
because it's just so much and it's so
literally,
overwhelming.
it literally is, and that's because once again, people were sitting on the back seat, and all these things piled up. As
Yeah,
I said earlier, if these wars were to stop right now, would they have solved the root causes and issues
no,
within our country? No,
no,
you know,
no, not even close.
not even. So we have a lot of conversations as a people in Sudan, outside of Sudan, in the diaspora. We need to ask ourselves whether are we doing the right thing by thinking we're siding with a certain group or something. Are we doing that? If you are you prepared to sit on the dragon seat? Are you
Mm.
prepared to be one who you want to take responsibility for that? Okay. Are you prepared to sit on that seat and be like, okay, I'm going to make everything better now? Dude, careful, because that seat is inherently corrupt and
Thank
scary as
you.
it is. You know,
Thank you.
it it,
Thank
it
you.
corrupts as it is, and yani, that's just the very nature of the state. That's the violent, repressive nature of the state as it is. You know,
Mhm.
but whatever. What do I know? I just talk all day. Anyway,
Talk, analyze, and spread some like wisdom drops every 5 seconds, but you know.
yeah, sure. Just get some honey. You know what? I just need to make this a trademark. I'm just like talking, and I'm just like, yeah, and I'm just having some asal, and I'm like, yeah, guys, we really need to stop all these, we need to stop it all. Get some
Yeah,
honey, honey
honestly,
from
get some
bees.
honey.
Hmm.
Make honey, not sides.
Make honey. That's make honey,
Oh,
not
I
more.
love this.
You know, literally.
So someone was asking, Oatly is asking, can we get a quick update on how things are on the ground? So, have you been able to get an update on what is happening on the ground for the people?
Um, recently, in the past like 24 hours, no. Um, but I've had a few messages. Hold on, I need to cough. I've had a few messages over in South Kordofan. They're about to announce. I need to send you this document. A friend sent it to me. They've just announced famine. And
Mm,
they need help setting up a community kitchen over there. So that means we have Darfur famine, we have South Kordofan famine, some Jazeera. Oh my god, fuck! The Al Jazeera project has
hmm.
announced for the first time in 100 years it has not produced anything. Anything.
Anything.
Al Jazeera. Anything. Al Jazeera project, I believe. Hold on, let me. It's on my story. It's on my story. I'm to switch up, but essentially they said that for the first time in 100 years, Al Jazeera project, which was once the world's biggest irrigation project, has failed because of the famine practices um, done there by the RSF. Um, for example, um, what else? There has been with the dams, more the amount of rain that has happened in northern Sudan is not normal. Um, there's been continued airstrikes over in Darfur as usual. I'm saying as usual, like now, like this is how crazy it is. Cholera is on the outbreak. There was also polio. I'm not
Hmm.
sure what happened. If that's still on the run at the moment.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about cases yet, but again, like I said, like it's so hard getting any accurate information.
It's and there's only a handful of people literally covering the third
Yeah.
biggest country in Africa, and then some, you know. Um,
And even then, on top of that, you have just even their own safety. So there's even the limitation of what they can even share.
literally,
Um, yeah, and there was another question asking in terms of sides on the ground, what's going on with the general population, RSF, SAF, has there been a tide switch with how people inside have been
they go back it.
viewing?
No, if I guess if you're in a RSF controlled area, you have to back RSF. If you're in SAF control, you have to
So
back
it's
SAF.
just
Um,
survival based, yeah.
right, it's survival based. Otherwise, you'll be branded as an incubator for
Mm.
the other side. And so you wouldn't be they wouldn't be invaded. You would have been infiltrated, and you would be a person who's been incubating dissent or support for the other side. Heck, I remember when I went into Port Sudan in the first month after the war, and instantly it was like, no, this isn't revolution mode. This isn't revolution Sudan. This is, yo, you're in our territory. You're gonna shut the fuck up, and you're gonna play by our rules, kind of thing. Um, and if you don't, then
That's so,
there's no such thing as civil liberties. Like, what are you talking about?
no.
Um, and you don't have to worry about the military guys catching you. It'll be the civilians, who would catch you out. Will be like, yo, the fuck, bro. We're supposed to be all in this together, man. And that's the
And
unfortunate.
that's the thing that, yeah, and this is the thing that I keep trying to tell people because
Mm.
folks are like, because with everything going on in Gaza, everyone's just like, yeah, it's being so live reported, everything is being seen. Like, why aren't we getting more images of what's happening on the ground in Sudan? You can't. You can't get anything on the ground in Sudan because you literally, you don't even you don't have the safety, you don't have everyone moving in one
No,
direction in order to be able to record the things, to show people what's going on inside and on the ground, except for like very specific things once in a while.
right.
So there is like there is no way for folks to actually show the truth of what's
No,
fully happening on the ground
no.
because your neighbor could be the one
Mm.
to have you
Yeah,
unalived.
literally, and I mean that's a neighbor, right? Like, we're
Hmm.
dealing with a situation where families are fighting each other,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
split, and over which sides, and the dangerous thing is when online rhetoric comes into the families, or when family rhetoric is then said online, and then these things are stayed there, and these things are continued, you know, racist tropes and tribal
Hmm.
or what.
Oh, can't hear you. It went on mute.
Wait, can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can
And
hear
so
you.
and so even with, say it with me, um with the media, like, I'm sure we've seen recent news footage from PBJ, um, from the rest. We've seen news footage from like Western media outlets, but they have to be taken from the say with me, from they have to take permission from SAF, from the army, and then they're only allowed to film within the areas
It's
that,
that they allow them to. Yeah.
exactly. So even then, you don't see the full proper picture of what's happening on the ground, on this side, on that side. Um, but it sounds like, in terms of legitimacy, it's one or the other. Um,
Yep.
and for me, RSF, I would deal with RSF, deal with the KZN. They're both the same, and
Hmm.
the army return back to its barracks, and that shit they need to be whipped. Like, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, but Like that thing needs to be destroyed,
Yep.
rebuilt, whatever. Like, it needs to change completely. But there is no way that this model that SAF has used, which is outsourcing things to militias, can continue. They cannot. Militias should not even exist in the first place.
Oh
Um,
no.
right? If you were a real army, let's just be like, if you're a real army, dude, you wouldn't need to fucking like ask a bunch of people who are indigenous to a land, and they but they don't have access to resources, and you use the military industrial complex to recruit them, um, and then testahil, they eventually bite your hand. Come
Oh,
on,
of course.
what
Like
do you expect?
exactly. And in terms of resistance on the ground, what is going on in terms of who, who's defending the people?
Well, it would really have to be the emergency committees, the emergency room.
Mhm.
And even then, one of the people I've met here is an emergency room coordinator for Karari. She says to me, she says, Bashir, every day when I hear a new emergency room has opened, I die a bit inside because that means we haven't done the work properly. If
Mhm.
the rooms need to open and there's more of them in different localities, it means that's just how heavy the work is. And it's more and more and more. I think in Khartoum there's like around, I'm not even sure if it's Khartoum or like all of Sudan, it's like 400 and something like emergency rooms. And every other day a new one opens. So if there's a new one opening every other day, holy goddamn shit, like what's going on? Is the response adequate enough? Is it not? That's why it needs to keep on opening up. Um, so in terms of with the people, it would be the ERs, um, it would be the diaspora groups on the outside. Um, it would be um, those who stop and call an end to the war, such as Sudan Youth Network. It would be those who travel with the medium of music to say just how bad this war is and how we can use other mediums to try and heal each other and heal
Mhm.
through music. Um, PTSD doesn't start until 3 years after the initial shock. Um, if you think the Sudanese people are traumatized now, the trauma will come in 2026 when they realize just what the fuck happened. And then some people may develop CPTSD, complex post traumatic stress disorder. Um, so the heroes we need are the ones who are able to recognize these and to make sure that in the coming years, as this continues, hopefully this war will stop by then, but those who look out for the welfare mentally and spiritually and physically, intellectually, academically, whatever, of the Sudanese people, because if you're not going to die now from a bullet, you're going to die from hunger. If you're not going to die from hunger, you may die from a broken heart. If you
Yeah.
don't die from a broken heart, you die going crazy,
Yeah.
um, going happening to you. I'm spent.
Yeah. Oh, right. It's like there's just so much to
I'm,
unpack and go through that it is,
there's so much,
there's
but
so much.
I'll be more than happy to do it again in another time.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because I know it's very late for you right now.
But it was good.
Thank you for staying up. But we're going to do this again at a time that's a little better for you, so you don't have to be up so late. Um, and I'm going to hit you up because, yeah, like I'll be traveling and I have some initiatives that are super early stages, but they're coming up. But I'll hit you up on them as well too.
Let me connect you
But
with the contacts you've been.
exactly, exactly. Don't worry, I'm gonna harass you. Don't worry, it's coming.
Thank you. That's
And before he leaves,
Yeah.
I also wanted
Uh,
to, hi,
Hey,
sorry. How
Lou.
are
Hey,
you? How
Abdi.
are
I'm
you
good.
doing?
I'm good.
I'm sorry, I'm just taking my, it's not even evening walk, but it's pretty late here, but I'm just walking. I couldn't help but just join the conversation.
So happy you did.
Thank you. Hi, Bashir. Very nice to meet you. Loved hearing your insight and intake. I am from Tigray, so I relate some of the things you were talking about. Um, just wanted to connect you with a friend of mine who is a policy analyst for
Mm,
one organization based here in the U.S. and she's working on the Horn of Africa. Well, East Africa in general, and I think she would benefit from hearing your insights. So I'll just wanted to say that I think it's really important. All this Western-based policy analysts, journalists is really here first account of people that are from conflict zones that they try to analyze or highlight. So just wanted to share that space with you. But I also got triggered when you guys were talking about how people complain, oh, how come we don't see, more footage coming from Sudan or from Tigray? How is it like, we pretty much see everything happening in Gaza, but that's not the case in other conflicts. And they say that in order to, in my opinion, to justify their own laziness and
mm,
ignorance.
mm,
Like,
mm,
it's like
mm.
they're looking for excuse for not yielding their voice to the victims of all this conflict that happen in places that are not so accessible.
Mhm.
It's part of the conflict. It's part of the equation. It's part of the system that they put in place that would help them to kind of hide, all the atrocities they commit. So it shouldn't be up to the survivors or the victims to prove that something horrific is happening to them, that their governments or military groups that claim to be their guardians are brutalizing them. Like, we shouldn't
Thank you.
expect them to prove that.
Absolutely.
Like,
No.
yeah, I just,
Oh.
because that was the one thing. Every time I speak about Tigray, the first thing everyone asks me when I tell them that women are being raped, they will ask me for a video. I'm like, are you fucking
why
kidding
would
me? Do
you
you
want
want me to, like,
video?
No, it is so unethical
yeah,
to say that in order for you to be aware, you need to see the blood, you need to see the atrocities
right,
in real time for it to be worthy of your time and
empathy,
energy and
exactly.
solidarity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the thing is, they also don't understand the historic marginalization of these people that has prevented them from having the capacity or the bandwidth to broadcast
Mhm.
whatever is happening onto them live. Access to information, access to technology
Yep.
is power. This group of
Absolutely.
people, like for example, in Tigray, it's a group of people that have been historically marginalized. We don't have access to internet. Are you kidding me? How many people
Yep.
do we even know have the knowledge on how to effectively use internet, much less to broadcast what's happening to them? So, for people to sit on their high chairs and demand video, like Tiffany Haddish, for example, I was on a space with her when during the Tigray genocide, and she literally asked me for a video of a genocidal rape or massacres. And these are not really, ignorant people. I mean, I don't want to say they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. It's a means. It's a way of justifying their laziness. Their lack of sympathy towards a group of people that they deem are not really, worthy of that. So I just got really triggered when you brought that up. And from the oppressor's side, they do it on purpose. They
Yeah.
ensure that there is communication blockade. They ensure that a group of people are put on a siege so that, because they know the world doesn't really care, about what
Oh, no, of
happens,
course not.
yeah, to our kind. And
Mhm.
out of sight, out of mind. That's it. They
Oh,
make it
yeah.
easy for the world to be complacent. So, yeah, it just brought back some not
Oh,
so
yeah.
fun
No,
conversations I had to deal with. Yeah.
No, 100%.
No, no,
And
no, no.
honestly,
That's good.
100%. And honestly, it's just like even when you do get any screen time in mainstream media, it's very intentionally positioned in a very specific way that also justifies all of that, where this is an African problem because Africans don't know what they're doing. And it's always been this way. There's no surprise, and it's unsolvable because they don't know how to govern.
And I really find that with like for example, this may sound a bit crazy, but we have to kind of also remember the countries of certain news media channels. Um, TRT World News, the one I did today. Um, Turkish is Muslim Brotherhood. You have to be, you know. Al Jazeera is Qatari. Qatari is a
Hmm.
Muslim Brotherhood. Sky News is what's his name? Rudolph Murdoch or whatever his name is. The Murdoch family. That's Australian. But that's British. That's West as it can be. Um, I got Iranians on one side. I got Americans, and if there's one thing through different doing different media interviews, um, the framings that you see from each one and the way they try to frame it. Um, like for example, I didn't realize today in my TRT one, the news anchor called it a civil war, and that totally missed me. That totally missed me. I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, okay, all I'm hearing is war, like different classes of war, whatever. And it's all too much. In terms of what you're saying, hard, um, in Tigray and the lack of media coverage on that. Um, I think I genuinely see a willful ignorance from people. Um, they actively choose themselves not to listen to X, Y, and Z um, happening around the world. Why? Um, Mostly cause it will ruin their little bubble that they're living in, right? That tells them everything. That everything is okay. So it's a bit of cognitive dissonance. There's a lot of cognitive
Yeah.
in our society and our structure, and that's just gonna blow. That's gonna blow up very soon. That's going to blow up very soon, and it's not gonna be pretty. Um, and as for the Tigray one, honestly, I really wish that. I hope you guys find peace. Um, and I hope you also find a tomorrow. Because if there's one thing that we've learned from this war, even better late than never, I guess. But essentially, would it not be better for us to try and like work something out for a tomorrow rather than spend it all in one moment, just like burning it all down and destroying it? So yeah, well, I hope you guys get that tomorrow that you've been fighting for and you wish for. Inshallah, you know.
Sure.
Thank you. And right back at you. Um, I
Thank
think Sudan, for many Tigrans, we feel like it's our second home. It has
you.
been a
Likewise.
safe haven for us more than our very own country, the country that we, paid the ultimate price for with our sweat, blood, wealth, and knowledge to build it, to get it where it is today. It has been a living hell for many of us. But then Sudan, not just only for this generation, but even previously, for our forefathers, Sudan has always been the one place that has welcomed us with open arms whenever we get expelled, exiled from our homes. So it really breaks our heart, to see the people, the good, hearted, kind people, to go through what they have been, what you all have been going through for the past 500 years. But then
All of
again,
us. All of
you
us.
know, yeah,
All of us.
our future is
All of us.
intertwined, I would say, because
Yeah.
it's when you look at, the core reason why we continue to find ourselves in this never-ending vicious circle of instability, conflict, and losses because we intentionally, knowingly or unknowingly, have empowered the wrong people.
Mm.
We put them on places of power that they don't know like how to maneuver, and we kind of in a way created our own, I don't know, villains, and then these villains are being used by outsiders, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, the US, and other countries that have vested interest in ensuring that the Horn or African in general remains unstable, so they can continue to loot our resources, to weaken us. Because if Africa becomes peaceful and stable, it will be a force to be reckoned with. But the problem
Hmm.
is the people who have realized this, the people who have the commitment and the will to fix this problem in a way that centers the people, are not in power. And those in power are group of, bigoted, corrupted idiots who only care for themselves and do not really give a rat's ass, about anyone else. And like all these African institutions that we have, the IGAD, the EU, they're nothing but a group of dictators who are there weaponizing those institutions to protect themselves. And so,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think,
And even more than just them not the right people not being in
yeah.
power, even when the occasion where they do
Hmm.
get to be in power, they're taken away from us so quickly.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we know what happened to Meles Zenawi and many other
Yeah.
African leaders who were really real proponents of, the African citizen and not this elusive idea of Africa,
Yeah.
and they were taken away from us. And even,
Yeah.
those, the young leaders who have a little bit of hope in becoming leaders of the people for the people, they get intimidated and silenced before they
Yeah.
could even drive real meaningful
Change.
change
Yeah.
on the ground. Yeah. So I
Hmm.
think there needs to be a revolution on how we see our survival, on how we think of
Oh,
Africa as a
yes.
continent. This crazy idea of Pan-Africanism, it's being weaponized to
Yeah.
protect dictators, is crazy to me. It's mind-boggling to me. And yes, of course, there is willful ignorance from everybody. Nobody cares about what happens to their neighbor, but you see them crying a river about what, I don't know, some sort of accident, or I don't know, something that happens far, far in Europe. You'd,
Oh yeah,
you'd,
like when you have the what was it, the Notre
yeah,
Dame and the millions and millions that poured
yeah,
in within like hours, that
exactly,
because that's what we were told is important
yeah,
and of value.
exactly. And it even irritates me more when I see self-proclaimed Pan-Africans, younger intellectuals doing that. Like
Hmm.
the older generation, I get it. They're like, byproducts of colonization, whatever. They have been brainwashed into thinking that their life does not matter as much as a white
Yeah.
man's life. I get that. But then the self-proclaimed young intellectuals, those who preach about neoliberalism, free market, capitalism, whatever, I see them like lacking the very basic self-respect, self-esteem, to put themselves and their own kind first. I mean, it's
Oh
fine
yeah.
that people care about others. I mean, by all means, but first you have to really invest in learning your neighbor's history, what's happening to them, how you can
Exactly.
help them, in their fight for freedom and peace. But I'm sure if you speak to Africans, not many of them would know about what's happening in Congo or what's happening in
No,
Sudan or what
no,
happened in
no,
Tigray.
no.
But they would know the ins and the outs of the American politics, the
Yeah.
presidential election, and what
Oh
have you.
oh,
And
yeah.
that's by
Oh
choice,
yeah.
you know,
They could probably tell you what Kamala had for lunch last week.
precisely.
But
Yeah,
they can't tell you what happened 3 villages down
yeah,
when a militia came rolling in,
yeah.
right? So
And,
yeah,
and I
it's
hear them saying like, "Oh, that's a tribal conflict." What do you mean by tribal conflict? What's a tribe? Like they say it in a very condescending way. They say it as if having tribe is like being narrow-minded. No, that's an indigenous
no.
way of identifying ourselves as Africans. This Pan-Africanism, it's a Eurocentric look, perspective into Africa as a continent. We are tribes. We have tribes. That's what Anyway,
Well,
I'm
no,
going
we
off
had
tangent
tribes.
here, but
No, no, no. We had tribes and we lived together for like millennia after millennia after
hmm
millennia, never getting anywhere close to what's going on right now.
yeah,
And again, like the way that we used to be with one another, that like indigenizing spirit got tainted. And then now we're trying to like hold on to some of it, but we're holding on to it within a